The story begins with a young and beautiful girl named Rose who worked in a big palace. This palace had many different parts, out of which one part kept insane prisoners, and another part kept nuns and orphans. All these people lived under the supervision of Priest Raven. There was a boy named Norman in the prison, and also was a prisoner who was a very famous writer. Norman. He was a writer of dirty stories, and that was the reason he was kept here, so that he could not share his dirty stories with the people, because at that time writing such things was considered a crime. One day when Rose came to take his clothes, Norman gives her his story along with the clothes so that she can share it with the outside world. Rose secretly gives the story to a publisher who prints and sells the story. All the books were sold in no time because everyone loved Norman's stories, and some people even would start feeling jealous after reading them. Soon Norman's story reached the king and he became angry, so he comes and orders to kill Norman. On hearing this, the king ministers explained to him that if we kill him he will become great in the eyes of the people because Norman is a famous writer. So they all advise the king that we should get Dr. William to treat Norman so that he stops writing. Dr. William was a very cruel doctor. He used to torture his patients in the name of treatment. He enjoyed watching his patients suffer. On the other hand, Priest Raven was teaching Rose to read and write. She loved Raven, and Raven too was aware of her love for him, but they could not unite despite their wishes. Soon it becomes night and Rose starts reading Norman's book to her friends. Rose loved Norman's stories, so she used to read them with great enjoyment. Meanwhile, listening to the story, Rose's friends get excited and start doing banging right there because Norman's book was so spicy. After a few days, when Rose goes to give clothes to Norman, he asks her to come inside. Now every day she comes inside the room and first gives Norman the money she earned from his book, and then tells him that the book you have written has become very famous and the publisher is asking you to write more. On hearing this, Norman says that I have written a story, but I will give it to you only if you kiss me in exchange for every page every day and under all circumstances. She wanted to get the story published, so she agreed to his proposal, but Norman started to excite her on the pretext of kissing her, which made Rose angry, and she snatched the story from him and started abusing him. Raven also heard their voices, so he comes inside, after which Rose hides the story from Raven and leaves from there. Now Raven starts motivating Norman to write. Actually, Raven thought that if Norman writes about his physical lust, then one day he will get enough and one day his mind will become clear, but he did not know that Norman was not only writing but also getting his book published with Rose's help. Soon Dr. William also came to meet Raven, and he told him he tells that the king has given me the responsibility of treating Norman. Raven comes to know after talking to William that the stories written by Norman are being published. Knowing this, Raven gets very angry with Norman, but still he tells William that I will talk to Norman about this. Actually, Raven knew very well about William, so he wanted to save Norman from the kind of treatment he gives him. He quickly comes to Norman and gets angry at him. He says that if you write anything and get it published, then it will not be good. On the other hand, William gets a new maid named Mary. William liked this orphan girl and married her and brought her to his home. Mary was of the age of William's daughter, and at night William forcefully put his sugar cane in her cave. After a few days, this news spread in the whole city like wildfire that William had married a girl half his age. Soon this news reached Norman's ears too, and Norman started imagining Mary's situation and wrote a play in which his mad friends were to act. Everyone started preparing for this play with great enthusiasm, and many people were called to see it. Among these people, William also came with Mary. When the story of William and Mary started being shown on the stage, William started getting angry while Mary was enjoying watching all this. It was being shown in the drama that how old William would have made explosions in Mary's cave. Everyone was happy to see the drama, and Rose was also watching everything from behind the curtain. And in the meantime, a mad prisoner catches her because his physical hunger was awakened after seeing Norman's play. Rose, to save herself, puts a hot iron on his mouth, after which all comes to know about this incident. Seeing all this, William gets angry at Raven too because he believed that everything happened because of Norman. Now Raven goes to Norman and snatches his pen and paper. After a few days, his wife Livia comes to meet him. Norman had not written anything for many days, so he was very angry and he starts venting his anger on his wife. Livia was very hurt by Norman's action today, so she goes to William's house. She goes to him and asks him to treat Norman. Norman's treatment was going to cost a lot, so Olivia gave all the money she earned from Norman's book to William so he can cure her husband. Norman invents new ways to write, so when he is given chicken and wine to eat he uses the chicken bone as his pen and the wine as his ink. So he wrote the whole story on his bed sheet. The next day Rose finds the sheet and she starts putting the whole story on paper. Rose lived with her mother who could not see, but Rose tells Norman's story to her too, and she too is happy to hear the story. Soon this story too got published, and when this news reached Raven got all the stuff removed from Norman's room so that he could not write anything even if he wanted to. Actually Raven was doing all this so that he was able to save Norman from the treatment of executioner William, but Norman was unable to understand what he was saying. Despite all this, Norman's passion for writing did not diminish. Now he writes the entire story on his clothes with his blood. Every day this passion of his is increasing. When she sees him she becomes very happy and kisses him out of joy. When Rose is coming out of Norman's room a girl sees her and she quickly goes to William and tells him that Rose is helping Norman. And Norman was showing his story to everyone and everyone was surprised to see his new way of writing. While Raven gets angry and tears off all his clothes, takes it off. The next morning on William's orders Rose was beaten with a stick in front of everyone because she used to help Norman. As soon as Raven sees her he stops them and asks them to hit himself with the sticks. He said that all the mistake is mine and hence I should be punished, but William could not punish a priest. After today's incident Raven decided to send Rose away from here. At night when Rose was sleeping with her mother she secretly comes to Raven's room and tells him that I don't want to go away from here because I love you very much. Rose wanted to be in Raven's arms, but Raven quickly controls himself and pushes her away from him. Actually Raven also loved Rose very much, but being a priest he could not accept her love. Mary on the other hand was also a big fan of Norman. After reading his stories a storm would rage in Mary's cave. When William could not quench her thirst Mary started an affair with a servant in the house. Both of them would explode in every way written by Norman. One day when William was away from home Mary wrote a letter and ran away with the servant. William sees Norman's book on Mary's bed and after seeing it he starts blaming Norman for this too. On the other hand Rose tells Norman that Raven is going to send me away from here, so I want to read your story one last time. Norman wanted to write but he did not have anything, so these people make a plan and according to their plan Norman kills the madman living in the room and next to him the person narrates the story and then the other person narrates it. In this way the story reached Rose who was sitting in her room and writing it on paper. But when the mention of fire came in the story a mad person set his room on fire, after which fire spread everywhere and everyone started running away. Meanwhile the person who had tried to rob Rose's cave earlier also caught Rose. Again after seeing the opportunity that bastard starts making explosions in her cave. William had heard Rose's screams but he did not do anything, but when Raven heard Rose's screams he started looking for her, but he was late in coming because Rose was already dead. Now Raven wanted to punish Norman for Rose's death, so in anger he cuts Norman's tongue, after which Norman dies in agony. Now the story begins after 1 year. Now William is in the control of mental asylum, was taking care of the situation, and a new priest came in place of Raven because Raven had gone mad due to the shock of Rose's death. Now he also wanted to share his story with a people like Norman, but William would not let him do so, and with this movie ends.